Welcome back to Flashpoint. Teachers unions across the state of North Carolina pushing back against the Republican-dominated General Assembly. GOP leaders trying to change what teachers report to parents, but some say it goes too far. Joining us now is the president of the North Carolina Association of Educators, Tamika Walker Kelly. Tamika, thanks for coming on Flashpoint.
Thank you for having me today.
As we start the new school year, what do you see really as the greatest challenge facing some of our teachers?
Well, we are still in the midst of an educator shortage all across the state, not only from classroom teachers to our support staff. And so one of the greatest concerns is making sure that we are able to run our schools effectively and have well qualified educators in every classroom to help our students along their academic journey this year.
And I know this is a multi-factor problem that includes a bunch of variables, but what do you see is the biggest obstacle in fully staffing our schools like we really need?
Well, one of the things that we have here in the state of North Carolina is that we have a recruitment and retention issue with high quality educators. As you know, educator pay lags among our neighbors here in the South, in North Carolina and South Carolina, Virginia. We've seen in Mississippi and Alabama. And so we're trying to remain competitive by drawing the best and the brightest to the state. However, we know that educator pay is an issue, and it causes many of our best educators to leave the state or leave the profession entirely.
Well, speaking of, we know the state budget remains in limbo as of this taping. What pay increase would you like to see? And knowing that you probably won't get that exactly, are you comfortable with a compromise that might happen?
Well, one of the things that we continue to advocate for here at NCAE is making sure that we have professionally paid educators, and educators are not immune to inflation like any other profession. And so we need a pay raise that acknowledges the hard work that our educators do on a daily basis, but also allows them to live with dignity in order to pay their bills and not have to work a second job or not have to leave the profession entirely. And so we have continued to advocate for a raise that does that, and also ensuring that our support staff also have more than a $15 living wage in order to compete with private contractors as well.
Do you feel like they've been receptive at the General Assembly?
Well, we have had many conversations with legislators on both sides of the aisle about educator pay, and we are looking forward to a hopeful movement towards a professional salary for all of our educators in the state.
As you are well aware, the General Assembly has been in the middle of a big push to expand private school vouchers. Advocates for school choice say that parents should have really the final say in their child's education. They say you should support students and not systems. Why are they wrong?
Well, there are thousands of parents, working parents like myself and others, who have chosen their child's public school, who have asked the General Assembly to invest in our public schools. As you know, we have a long-standing case with Leandro versus the state of North Carolina, where public school parents have petitioned the courts to fully resource our public schools. And so our North Carolina state constitution tells us that we are to fund one system of schools, and the expansion of private school vouchers creates two different systems, one private and one public, one accountable to the taxpayers, our public school system, and one unaccountable. And so we will continue to advocate for the full funding of our public schools, because we are open to every single student, regardless of who they are, where they come from, their background, or how much money their family makes.
Do you feel like there's an effort among some, not among all, but about among some, to undermine our public school system?
We know that public schools are the bedrock of democracy here in North Carolina and all across the nation. And we have seen attacks on our public school system, from trying to limit what educators can teach in the classroom to, like we were just talking about, the expansion of private school vouchers, which divert public funds to private entities. But one of the things that we know is that through polling and also through our conversations with communities and parents alike, that we support and love our public schools. And so we will continue to advocate for what our public school students and educators need, because that is what working families have chosen for their students.
But do you feel like that's the feeling of lawmakers in Raleigh?
Well, we know that there is a mixed consensus about public schools in the General Assembly, but we know that our legislators need to listen to their constituents about what they want for their communities and for their public schools.
Let's talk about the pandemic, because while it's technically over, its effects certainly are not. It has been a challenge for teachers, students, families across the board. We're still coming out of it to a large extent, although I've seen encouraging news about students making up for some of the learning loss. What in your mind still needs to happen to make sure both students and teachers feel supported and feel like they've made up for that time?
Well, one of our legislative priorities that we have continued to push as NCAE is to increase accelerated tutoring supports for students in our schools. Our educators, as you know, in the middle of this educator shortage, are trying to make sure that our students' academic needs are met in school. And so we need those additional resources, including additional staffing, in order to provide deep attention to what our students may need in schools. And so if that means additional small groups, additional academic resources such as additional curriculum tools. We continue to advocate for those things because our students have, made growth, but there's more growth to be made for our students.
Republicans in the General Assembly have also been pushing the idea of a parent's bill of rights, is what some call it, that would require teachers to alert parents to any sort of issue related to trans issues within students. What's your take on this?
Well, we know that this piece of legislation is made to create division between parents and educators when studies show that the parent-school relationship is one of the single indicators of high student success. We know that the drafters themselves said that many of the provisions in this law already exist for parents. And so our focus here at NCAE is to continue to elevate positive parent and student relationships, parent-educator relationships, because we are all stakeholders in wanting to make sure our students succeed, and we cannot allow this partisan tactic to continue to divide that positive relationship.
Got to get everybody on the same page and get teachers and parents working together. I know my parents were always on team teacher. No matter what I went home and complained about or said, my parents always took the teacher's side, and I was always upset about it. But it was good in the long run. It was good in the long run, even though I did not appreciate it in 7th grade. All right, listen, Tamika Walker Kelly. Yeah, right. All right, Tamika, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Take care. More Flashpoint after this.